When I checked my watch, it was past 8 p.m. My daughter and husband wouldn't prepare their meals, so they must be waiting for my return. As I was about to enter the living room, I heard my daughter, Linda, laughing loudly while talking. In this day and age, fixing clothes and selling them again sounds so poor. Perhaps they were watching TV or something. I never thought they were talking about me, but when I heard my husband's next words, my blood ran cold. Miranda too, she's kind of stubborn, or maybe she's just misunderstanding something. It seemed they were talking about me and my friend Miranda. I froze on the spot, forced to listen to a conversation I didn't want to hear. Their talk was all about belittling Miranda and me, making my vision blur. Collapsed on the spot, my dog, Ken, came to comfort me. Their conversation continued, saying Ken was a mutt, or suggesting we should throw away my old sewing machine, a keepsake from my mother. Suddenly, I stood up. Without saying a word, I took Ken with me, and before I knew it, I had dashed out of the house. Where was I planning to go? I didn't even know myself. Ken whined anxiously. Could I return home as if nothing had happened? No, that was impossible. I knew one thing for sure, those two were mocking us. I didn't want to go back to a home where such people were waiting. I didn't want to feel miserable. From that day on, I never returned to that house. There were a few things I cherished. Among them, my mother's old pedal sewing machine was my most treasured item. My mother used this sewing machine to make a lot of clothes for me. I wanted to be like her, so I made clothes for my daughter, Linda. Linda used to like the clothes I made, but that was a thing of the past. Now in high school, she hardly ever wore the clothes I made. At a cafe in the afternoon, I was venting to my friend Miranda. I used to love the clothes Mom made the best. And now, when she sees me using the sewing machine, she says I look like a grandma. Well, Jolie had her phases of saying similar things too. I've known Miranda since high school. Sometimes she brings up things from the past that I don't even remember. Did I really say that? I feigned ignorance and took a sip of my iced coffee. Laughing, Miranda meticulously checked the clothes I had mended. After graduating from a high school focused on fashion, Miranda and I went to the same college for fashion studies. Even though we're on different paths now, our friendship hasn't changed. Yeah. Classic Jolie. It's perfect. I felt relieved when Miranda said that. My refurbished old clothes were going to be displayed in her boutique. After college, Miranda landed a job at a major apparel company. There she learned the ins and outs of sales and management before going out on her own. Linda is in high school now, and I wish Jolie would start getting more involved with me. After finishing the delivery, it was Miranda's turn to grumble. I've told you time and again, this is more of a hobby for me than a job. I'm always anxious about whether I'm doing a good job with the repairs you send me. Miranda responded with a bored yeah, got it. After our usual catch-up and small talk, we parted ways. Walking home alone, I reminisced about the past. The high school and college days. The days we were driven by our assignments, pushing each other to do better. After graduating, I got a job at a textile company and gradually stopped making clothes. Having lost my father early, it was just my mother, my daughter, and me. My mother passed away before I finished college. I was struggling to adapt to work in a new environment on my own. Years later, I married a senior colleague, and when Linda was born, I truly understood the importance of family. Like my mother did for me. I began making clothes for Linda using the old pedal sewing machine she left behind. She used to be so sweet and appreciative when she was younger. Arriving home, I sighed as I saw Linda lounging on the sofa, watching TV. Jolie was saying the same thing. I remembered Miranda telling me during the day. I wonder if I was such a lazy daughter in my mother's eyes. If so, her love was indeed great, and I don't even come close. Huh? You're back? It took Linda a while to notice I had come home, yet she stayed sprawled out, not moving an inch. At least, I wasn't as lazy a daughter as this. Reassuring myself, I decided to start preparing dinner. I'm home. It was past 10 p.m. when Joseph came home. Sitting down next to Linda on the living room couch, he loosened his tie. Welcome back. Linda greeted him, her eyes still glued to her smartphone. While I was getting the drinks ready, the two of them chatted and laughed, watching TV together. Although father and daughter get along well, Joseph is not Linda's biological father. Linda lost her biological father in an accident when she was just 2 years old. For a while after losing my previous husband, I got by with sewing jobs introduced by Miranda, where I met Joseph. Linda was a friendly child and quickly grew fond of Joseph, so it didn't take long for us to remarry. I used to be constantly anxious about losing loved ones again, but Joseph's carefree nature and resilience gradually gave me a sense of security. His bright and cheerful personality made me think he wouldn't die easily. And indeed, my happiness continues to this day. Hey! Isn't the outfit that kid's wearing on TV cute? Linda asked Joseph, pointing at a celebrity on the screen. That's supposed to be the trend this year. We've started getting them in at the store, said Joseph, who manages a store known for its affordable fashion. Awesome! Get me one before they sell out. Their trivial father-daughter exchange bored me. It's fine for Joseph and Linda to like brand new, trendy clothes. But I can't understand why they're so quick to discard them each season. Clothes that are still wearable get replaced by new ones that catch their eye, even though they were favorites not long ago. I, on the other hand, were my favorite clothes for many years. I sometimes add my own touches and mend items that have become a bit old-fashioned or frayed. I know Joseph and Linda think my way of handling clothes is old-fashioned, so I try not to comment on how they deal with theirs. Linda is really into fashion, huh? Joseph is soft on Linda, and at this rate, he'll end up buying her a lot of clothes again. Don't spoil Linda too much, okay? Why doesn't she buy her own clothes with the money she earns from her part-time job? The conversation stops abruptly when I interrupt their cheerful chat. Come on, it's fine. He's a parent after all. He should buy his child clothes, right? Yeah, kids Linda's age want to enjoy fashion. You should be more understanding. Suddenly, I'm the bad guy, bombarded by both of them, and I feel overwhelmed. Nothing I say now will get through to them. Just keep it in moderation, please. Leaving that remark behind, I exit the living room, but their happy voices follow me. It makes me feel incredibly empty. However, seeing my dog Ken curled up and sleeping in the bedroom soothes me. Ken, you're on my side, right? I mutter, though Ken just tilts his head. With a renewed sense of emptiness, I join Ken in sleep. One day, I visited Miranda's office. I was there to show her the mending I had done on some vintage clothes she had picked up abroad. Miranda inspects the clothes I've repaired with a fine-tooth comb. Being friends doesn't mean she'll compromise on quality. I know this and prepare myself for the delivery. Sometimes we chat over coffee when the batch is small, but this time there were too many items, so I came to her office. The place was stacked with boxes everywhere. The first time I came here, I mistook it for a warehouse. Miranda's desk is at the back, and there's a table and chairs for visitors in front. She picked all these items from an antique shop. Her sense of style has been my admiration since our college days. These pieces are okay, but I'd like a bit more adjustment on this skirt. After a thorough check, I let out a sigh of relief. Did something happen? Miranda sharpens her gaze. Huh? It was just a sigh of relief. I'll fix the rest and get back to you soon. Trying to escape Miranda's intense scrutiny, I quickly pack the clothes for resubmission into my bag. This batch didn't quite feel like your usual work, Jolie. Miranda pulls an envelope from her desk and hands it to me. It's the payment for the clothes I repaired. I took more time this round, and there were items that didn't meet expectations, so I shouldn't take this. I refuse to accept the envelope, but she forces it into my hand. I believe your skills haven't declined at all, she says, looking into my eyes with a sparkle. If anything, you've reached a professional level. That's why I've included a proper service fee. I know Miranda's eyes sparkle like that only when she's immersed in her work. She appreciates my skills and offers a fair reward, not just because I'm her friend. Wait. I have something I want you to see, Jolie. Ignoring my attempt to leave, Miranda pulls out something from a cardboard box. A hand-carved donkey, maybe? The figurine, small enough to fit in the palm of my hand, was something sold at a street stall in Africa for tourists. I think you have a better sense of decor than I do, Jolie. What do you think about this? I give my honest opinion. And so, I provide my feedback on each new trinket she pulls out. I love these moments. Before I know it, time always flies by. When I glance outside, the day has already turned to night. Miranda. Sorry, I need to leave now. Surprised, Miranda looks at the office clock. I'm the one who should apologize for keeping you so late. But your input was invaluable, thank you. With a wave, I dash out of Miranda's office. Passing through the office district, I hurry to the station through the night. The glittering cityscape fills me with longing. And then, I remember I had a dream too. I wanted many people to wear the clothes I made. That's why I went to a fashion college. I gaze out the train window at the passing scenery. What if I hadn't joined a textile manufacturer but an apparel company instead? If I hadn't gotten married? If I hadn't had a child? My self-pity leads me back to the familiar residential area. And I return to reality. Forgetting the dream I was just reminiscing about, I hurry home. Looking at my watch, it's past 8 p.m. Neither Linda nor Joseph prepare their meals, so they must be waiting for my return. Fortunately, they don't get mad when I serve ready-made meals, so I stop by the nearby supermarket to do some quick shopping. Still, I'm troubled by the lack of communication. Usually, I inform them or call when I'll be late, but today was neither. Moreover, it's unusual for me not to prepare dinner and return home this late. While I'm pondering this, I arrive home. The porch light is on, so they must be inside. Maybe they didn't mind my absence, and I was the only one concerned about the time. That's a lonely thought. As I open the front door, there's Ken, tied up. Usually, he roams freely indoors. Maybe they didn't let him loose after a walk. When I reach for Ken's leash to free him, seeing his watery eyes, I hear loud laughter from the living room. Unable to suppress my irritation, I head to the living room with Ken. After all, Ken was the one I brought home. Wanting a dog for Linda, we went to a city adoption event. Linda wanted a smaller, cuter dog, so we left, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Unable to forget, I inquired later and heard he was about to be euthanized, so I had to take him in. Though Ken came into our lives unexpectedly, I thought Linda and Joseph had accepted him as a pet. But now, the fact that they're having fun while Ken is left tied up in the cold entryway is unbearable. As I was about to enter the living room, I heard Linda laughing loudly while talking. Fixing up clothes and selling them again is so old-fashioned. Were they watching TV or something? I never thought they were talking about me, but hearing Joseph's next words made my blood run cold. Miranda too, she's so obsessed, or maybe she's just misunderstanding something. It seemed they were talking about Miranda and me. I was rooted to the spot, forced to listen to a conversation I didn't want to hear. Influenced by Miranda, here I am, with no significant skill, fulfilling repair requests. Miranda uses me, despite my lack of any real sense of style, just because we're friends. Their conversation was filled with nothing but criticism of Miranda and me, making me feel dizzy. Collapsed on the spot, Ken came to comfort me. Their talk continued, saying Ken was a mutt, or suggesting we should throw away my old sewing machine, a keepsake from my mother. Suddenly, I stood up. Without saying a word, I took Ken and, before I knew it, I had left the house. Where was I planning to go? I didn't even know myself. Ken whimpered anxiously. Could I return home as if nothing had happened? No, that was impossible. I knew for sure those two were mocking us. I didn't want to go back to a home where such people were waiting. I didn't want to feel that miserable. My steps took me in the opposite direction from home. Eventually, the scenery shifted from residential to business districts, and my figure, walking with a dog, stood out. But there was no turning back. Arriving under a familiar building, I took out my smartphone and made a call. Jolie! What's going on? Miranda, surprised by my call, rushed out of the building. I was just about to leave. She said, noticing Ken sitting by my side, and seemed to sense something was wrong. She asked me to wait a moment and disappeared back into the building. Shortly after, she reappeared with a large cardboard box and asked, Ken, can you bear with it for a little while, before placing him inside the box? Ken, being a smart and rarely barking dog, quietly complied. Then, I shared with Miranda what had happened back at home. So that's what happened. As I spoke, my shock and anger faded, replaced by anxiety that perhaps Linda and Joseph were worried about my absence. Ignoring my fretting, Miranda looked at Ken curled up in the box and muttered, If they were worried, they'd have contacted you by now. Unable to grasp her words in my panic, I paced the room, muttering, What should I do? What should I do? Didn't you say you installed a pet camera for Ken? I heard her this time, but her exasperated expression was clear. She sighed deeply and suggested, If you're concerned about them, why don't you check the camera? Without giving me another glance, Miranda stroked Ken. I took out my smartphone, trying to check the pet camera feed. But my hands trembled, my heart pounded, and my mind went blank. Feeling comforted by Miranda's petting, Ken suddenly darted to my feet. If you can't watch it alone, shall I watch it with you? Nodding slightly, I handed her my smartphone. Miranda opened the pet camera app. The living room appeared on the screen. A pizza box was left open on the table, with food scattered around. Linda and Joseph were still laughing joyously on the sofa. It doesn't seem like they're worried about you at all. It was apparent. They didn't seem to notice that Ken and I had left the house. Though I felt shocked again, I could sense my anger rising anew. Now, what should we do next? What do you want to do, Jolie? Do you still want to go back to that house? Miranda seemed excited as she checked on me. No, I don't want to go back. Hearing my decision, Miranda smiled happily. Then leave the rest to me. I realize now, I've never felt as reliant on Miranda as I did at that moment. At the same time, I thought she would be a formidable adversary if ever crossed. Suddenly, Miranda showed me an astonishing video on my smartphone. It was from the pet camera, but what it showed was Joseph in the midst of an affair. I can't believe it was that easy to find. Miranda seemed as thrilled as a child who had discovered a new game. She used to work with Joseph at the same company. Apparently, she still had connections from those days and had heard rumors about Joseph. I didn't pay much attention to it, thinking it was just gossip, not significant enough to report to Jolie. Those words were a final blow to me, but they also helped me make a clean break. I've made up my mind. With a wink that seemed to say, that's the spirit, Miranda was ready to take action. The next day, I chose a time when Joseph and Linda were out to move my essential belongings. Linda sent me a message on my smartphone, but I only told her I'd be staying with Miranda for a while. Seeing no response after she read the message, I guessed she didn't care that I wasn't coming back. I immediately started looking for a place where Ken and I could live and took a step towards a new beginning. Miranda introduced me to a lawyer she knew, who, as always, seemed to be enjoying the situation. She sat in on the meetings with the lawyer, providing valuable information. The more I heard from Miranda, the colder my feelings toward Joseph became. He was involved with a young part-timer at the store, which led to him being shuffled around different locations. No wonder he was stuck being just a store manager, despite his age. I felt embarrassed about how oblivious I had been all this time. I had settled everything with Joseph through the lawyer, but I was still worried about Linda. Was she really wanting to come with me? I wanted at least to talk to her face to face. So, when I went to pick up the rest of my stuff and found Linda at home, I tried asking her. "Linda, won't you come with Mom?" Linda, still lounging on the sofa, wouldn't even look at me. "Are you angry because I divorced on my own?" I asked her, nearly in tears. But she just shrugged her shoulders. Was she crying? "Let's go together then." I couldn't leave my own daughter behind. Before marrying Joseph, she had felt lonely without her biological father. It must be better for her to be with me than with a stepfather she's not related to by blood. When I reached out to take her hand, Linda finally spoke up. "What are you getting all self-righteous about?" She burst into laughter after showing tears in her eyes. "You really didn't know anything, did you?" She spoke with a kind of pity. Linda knew about Joseph's affair. In exchange for her silence, she was getting money and clothes from him. He's already found someone else to marry. Even during the divorce negotiations, he was seeing another woman. That explained why everything went so smoothly. "Are you okay with this?" I wondered where Linda's true feelings lay. I was worried about her future. Yet, Linda just smiled confidently. "The new woman Dad's going to marry is young and kind, like a big sister." She had already met her future stepmother. The stepmother would help her pick out clothes and plan to buy a small dog. "I'm sick of the noisy sewing machine and that dirty mutt." That single sentence wounded me deeply, and Linda knew it. As I stood there in shock, she added insult to injury. "I'm about to graduate, and as long as I have money, I can live on my own, so just support me financially." She's yet to decide her path after graduation, yet her head seems to be in the clouds. Where did I go wrong in raising her? "I'll relinquish custody to him, so if you want money, ask your father," I said coldly, as if I had lost my maternal love. Linda didn't show any sign of being hurt by my words. And so, without looking back, I never stepped into that house again. I was surprised to discover this cold side of myself. I surely love Linda, but why didn't I insist on taking her with me? That's something I still regret. 5 years have passed since then. Joseph lost his job, and he and Linda live modestly together. I had him sign an agreement during the divorce to never involve me again, so there's no harm to me for now. After graduating, Linda has been hopping from job to job, supporting Joseph. If she ever reaches out, I'd definitely lend a hand, but that seems unlikely. "Jolie, you've stopped working again." Miranda calls out, bringing me back to reality. Since then, I've been working officially for Miranda. With me handling the office, Miranda has become even more active, and her business is thriving. We've moved to a larger property that accommodates my workspace and a comfortable area for Ken. "I don't have kids, so I don't fully understand, but you're considering taking back Linda, aren't you?" Miranda asks while making coffee. She seems to see right through me. I once asked a lawyer to regain custody of Linda. However, after hearing the voice recorder the lawyer used when talking to Linda, I hesitated. "If you get rid of that sewing machine and the mongrel dog, that's fine." That moment, I realized I couldn't part with the sewing machine and Ken for Linda's sake. I abandoned my daughter. For my dreams. For my beliefs. Without a word, Miranda handed me freshly made coffee. Thank you. We drink coffee together and resume our work. I hope, someday, Linda will appreciate the value of these remade clothes. With that wish, I continue working on the sewing machine.